It's
Yay.
Friday, so this is a Tiara Facebook Live conversation. So welcome everyone, and Peg Rowe, as always, good to have you with me today.
You. Great to be
Good,
here.
good. Got a little lag in the video, so we'll both be present to that and make
Yeah.
sure we're cluing each other in. I'm Beth Ruske. I am one of the partners along with Peg Rowe in Tiara International, and we are a leadership development company. And we specialize in helping leaders, especially women leaders, step into their leadership. And leadership for us is an important word. We use it a lot, and we're trying to desensitize people to this word leadership. Like there's this one person up at the top that's the leader. And our belief is everyone's a leader. Every one of you women are leaders, and we want you to powerfully step into being the leader in your own life. So that's what's behind our mission. We work with organizations, we work with companies, we work with individuals, we do executive coaching, we do a lot of different things. And these are probably one of our most fun things. I know Peg and I are regulars on our Friday Facebook Lives because we get to just chat and tell you about what's going on and what's on our minds and what we're thinking about. So for a quick start like me, that's perfect. And today, Peg, you came up with the topic, which is great. We're going to talk about limiting beliefs and how limiting beliefs get in our way. And boy, 2020 has been a plethora of opportunity for limiting beliefs.
Right.
I'm going to tie that also to how to prevent limiting beliefs that might get in the way of investing in yourself. So that's an important thing to continue in your own growth and development, however that may look for you. So that's the setting. So Peg, let's start by talking about limiting beliefs.
Right. Yeah, they happen all the time. They're the old adage that we have something like 60,000 thoughts a day. Some of them are helpful, some of them are not. Limiting beliefs fall into that category of the things that aren't. And it's the kind of thing that can happen so automatically that we don't even always recognize it as a limiting belief. It becomes something that just feels like that's just the way things are. We laughed about 2020 being a particularly difficult year for limiting beliefs, or actually it's been, probably a great year for limiting beliefs, in that there have been so many things that are out of our control. And that often is where a limiting belief will pop up when something happens that we're not expecting. It's out of our control. Everything from, the governor of your state putting out a rule that says you have to work from home, and you can have an automatic response that sounds something like this: "You're not the boss of me. Why do you tell me when I can go to work and when I can't?" And logically that that's not true, and yet it's an automatic response. And so what we become aware of is, because this year has been so unusual, there's just so darn many limiting beliefs that it's important to be aware of them and tuned in, and then recognize that it literally is just a thought, and you have control over it. It's not like it has control over you. And if you're aware of them, you actually have the opportunity to pause, step back, reconsider, and shift to a more empowering belief, rather than just being driven by this limiting belief that wants to jump in and take over.
Yeah. One of the simplest tools we've ever used at Tiara is what we call the 6 boxes. And it really is just a very simple process that people go through to help shift the limiting belief. You made it sound very simple.
Yeah.
Pause, think about it. What would be more empowering?
Right.
That takes a little bit of work for people to kind of get the muscle of that exercise.
Yes.
Because the limiting beliefs feel so overwhelming sometimes, so true, so big. You hear people say, "But you just don't get it." And it's true, and we've really convinced ourselves. And that in itself is part of the grip of the limiting belief. But the 6 boxes, if you are a Tiara Resource Circle member and you're listening to this, go into the tools section and download the 6 boxes, and you'll see how to walk through the process. It's very simple. If you're not a Tiara Resource Circle member, this would be a great time for you to join. And right now during the pandemic, we're keeping these, the resource circle absolutely free. So no harm, no foul. Just go out there and get access to a lot of great tools,
Right.
especially this one that Peg and I are talking about today about shifting from a limiting belief. I think the first thing, Peg, I heard in what you were saying is that it's important that we recognize the belief and
Right.
then recognize that the belief is a limiting belief.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we just assume it's true, and take it as truth,
Right.
then there's no ability to question it or shift it.
Right.
So I do really like inserting, when you say insert and pause, I like inserting there one of the questions. I think one of our other partners had came up with this years ago when we were working with teams too. And we would ask the team, well, where is that not true?
Mm-hmm.
How is that not true?
Yes.
And that's a great reality check for yourself, to just stop for a minute and say, okay, I know you're feeling this way. I know you believe this. Where is it not true?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's been a great insert here message for me. So I can pause.
Yeah, because what we know is that if we have a particular belief, that one of the things that we do as humans is we search the environment for evidence to prove that that belief is true. So we're always looking for the evidence to support our beliefs. And if we pause for just a moment to challenge ourselves, where is that not true? Then we're actually introducing the opportunity to look for evidence that actually it might not be a true belief. It might actually be a limiting belief. So it's just kind of a little bit of a sneaky way of stopping the action and then giving yourself that opportunity to really think about, oh, this probably isn't always true. It might be true sometimes, but it's not always true.
Yeah. I remember one organization we were working with, they were a museum here in Chicago. That's where Peg and I reside in the States. And we were doing this limiting belief conversation at a team level. And one of our partners asked the team, how is this not true? And I think the question was about the limiting belief was, well, we don't have any more space, or limited by space.
Yes.
And we asked the question, well, how is that not true? Where is that not true? And they sat back and they thought for a moment. And then someone said, well, we could hang things from the ceiling in the lobby, or, we could have, use the outdoor space on the, the beautiful steps that come into the museum. We could, on the risers, we could, and all of a sudden people started coming up with new ideas that absolutely refuted the limiting belief of we don't have any more space.
Right. Yeah.
And that, to me, I love that example because it was done in a group setting. There was group confirmation that we absolutely didn't have any more space.
Right. Yes.
Are you crazy?
Yes.
Look around us. There's not an inch here, right?
Yeah.
And it's shifting the lens.
Yes.
It's shifting the lens. So we want to apply this concept of shifting the lens to you, especially you women that are watching this, because we have found that a lot of women tend not to invest in their own development. They like it when somebody invests in them. They like it when they're tapped to invest. The organization will invest in you. But a lot of us don't have an organization tapping us on the shoulder and saying, hey, you know what? We're going to invest in you. So we have to create these investment opportunities for ourselves. Peg, what are some of the thoughts, that you've talked with a lot of women, and,
right.
We have this Leading with Impact program that is really about helping women leaders learn how to make those requests and invest in themselves, and not just time. It takes resources too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, often, and I would even couch it in saying that 2020 has been such an unusual year, in that in addition to just the normal questions that people might have about asking for investment, this has been a year where a lot of leadership development and investment got put to the side as companies were literally just trying to figure out, how do we stay in business in this environment? And so it makes it, I think, almost even more challenging in some respects, because it has been a year where there wasn't a lot that was being done. And so now to come, back to your organization and say, hey, I feel like it's time for me to invest in my leadership. It's time for me to do some work to get to the next level. We can anticipate that you might get rejected. So women have this belief that, well, they're not investing money in anybody. Why would they invest in me? Or, it's not, I don't see them making separate investments in people. So I'm a little gun shy about asking for that. Do I deserve that? Often is one of the beliefs that we have. Well, I'm not sure I deserve it. I can see other people that deserve it, but I don't know that I do. And so these kinds of situations trigger a whole lot of resistance to even just posing the question and even asking, is this a program that feels like it would make sense? And is this something that would be, something you would consider making an investment in?
Yeah. And I think it's somewhat easier for people in organizations, even as we're talking about the
Yeah.
challenges and the limiting
Yeah.
belief. If you are in a company or in an organization, it's easier to, in some respects, to have somebody else invest, their money and your time in your development.
Right.
But we're actually talking to everybody. That's one of the reasons why we have our resource circle available right now for free, because we want women to be investing in their own development in whatever way that looks like for you. And so that's why we make it available. So we do have a variety of different programs, but we really want women to get that
Yes.
it's permissible. Maybe it's even required. It's definitely attractive
Yeah.
when you invest in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to confront some of those limiting beliefs. Am I worth it? Is it worth it? Why would
Right.
it matter? All these kind of limiting questions and limiting beliefs. And you have to really pause, as Peg said, and put yourself first and say, I am worth it. It is up to me on how I want to develop and grow.
Yeah, and I think sometimes when we're in a conversation with someone who may be sort of confronting some of those limiting beliefs, if we get underneath it, they actually do want to stretch and grow as a leader. It's not like growth is not something that they want to do, but they have almost a tendency to feel like, well, on my own by myself, which looks like, reading or, doing something. And they for the kind of growth and development they really are desiring, the places they want to go, the ways they want to advance as a leader, that it probably will take something more than reading an article.
Yeah.
Like there's a bigger thing you want to do. And the other thing that we recognize is that so many women are on this journey, it feels like, alone. And part of what programs do when people participate in development is it gives you other colleagues who are on the same path as you are. It gives you an opportunity to get perspective from other people who are confronting the same issues that you are, and see that there are other ways of doing it. And it takes that sense of being kind of a lonely journey out of it. It has you get that sense that, there are other people on this path with me.
Yeah. And it's interesting. We hear that from senior women all the time. They've never felt more alone than as they've gotten promoted. They look around, there's not a lot of women around them. There's not a lot of people that look like them, whether it's a minority or, just gender, and they're looking around and they're saying, wow, who can I talk to? So I do know our programs. That's the number one thing we hear from senior women that are in our programs. They're like, it's so nice to know that I'm not alone and that there's other people going through similar things.
Mm-hmm.
If you take that all the way down to, a stay-at-home mom, as part of our Tiara resource circle, and she's on the call and she's listening to someone from halfway around the world talking about the same things and trying to deal with the same issues. I know for me, the growth and development that I continue to seek every year helps me in all aspects. It helps me in my relationships. It helps me, I come from a big family, and I know one of the things it allows me to do is to lead inside of my family, even though I'm not the oldest. I'm not the favorite, you know, it's like none of those, but it's like, it still is a form of leadership. And I come from a whole family of you're not the boss of me. So, you know, that's an added dimension of finesse. But, you know, if you're thinking about being, you know, how you are as a leader, like the leader is who you are in your life and how you show up in your family and with your friends. And I think that's just important to get that, you know, it comes from the inside out and you got to feed that. If you have a garden, you feed and weed, you know,
Right. Yes.
so you're your own garden, feed and
Yes.
weed, feed
Yes.
and weed yourself.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, let me end Peg our conversation today by
Because we're at Stanford. Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, let me end the conversation by asking you a question. You know, you've been inside of leadership development as a leader in organizations and as an executive coach and as a consultant now for many years. What is the one thing maybe you think you've gotten out of uh, investing in your own growth and development all these years? Yeah.
All these years.
I know I threw that one in there just to throw you off. All these years.
No, it's all right. All these years, that's fine. I would say I can reflect back in a large company that I was part of, and I was invited, a little bit different story, but I was invited to participate in a program they called the middle manager at that time. And one of the prerequisites was no one from your part of the organization, it was a big company, could attend in the same set of sessions you were. So everyone that you were dealing with was someone new to you. There was no, you didn't walk in the door and know anybody. And there was probably about 40 people in the group. And the thing that shifted so dramatically for me was the focus was actually on, you know, corporate initiative and increasing collaboration. And they did so many things in the course of that week. It was a, you know, a 1 week, you were in a hotel, you know, kind of meeting with all these people. And I actually left that particular program with a demonstrable my approach to working on teams and working with other people. Not so much in my own team, because in my own team, we're highly collaborative. But in other team environments, I had not so much taken to heart that I had a role in creating collaboration. I sort of always looked to whoever was leading the task force or the group, and I wasn't recognizing that I was empowered to affect that in my own way, that I could show up and create collaboration even when it wasn't being called for. And that was probably the most profound effect that any training or development program had on me. And it shifted dramatically how I led and my relationship to my responsibility as a leader.
Yeah. I can speak to that as your partner, that I love the approach that you bring from a collaboration. You know, you recognize different people think differently. You love to hear all sides. You love to bring that into a consensus. You know, and whether you're leading a team or leading a family or leading a,
Right.
you know, a community, those are great skills to have.
Yes.
So yeah, I can attest to being, you know, on the receiving end of those.
Thanks. Thanks.
I would end by saying that throughout my career years ago, there was a shift. I was very much, you know, on a path, you know, achieving a lot of things. And, you know, but I really wasn't comfortable in my leadership. I was patterning my leadership along against the role models that I had were very strong males. And that became the pattern for my leadership. And it wasn't until I really got serious about what leadership development looks like for me that I found my own true leadership, that I have a huge heart as a leader. Yes, I like results. Yes, I want us to achieve. Those are given, but I want us to do it together and I want us to have fun and I want us to really be feeling good about what we do. And when I made that shift, it didn't just change my career trajectory, it changed my relationships. It brought back friends that I hadn't been friends with, you know, that we kind of lost touch with. It really shifted my dynamics in not only my family, but my siblings and my parents, and my life got richer. So if you're still listening in at this point in our Facebook Live, hopefully you'll see for yourself that investing in you is worth it. Your
Yes.
life can be enriched in so many ways that you can't even predict right now. So join the Tiara Resource Circle if you're not already a member.
Right.
And if you want to find out more about our programs, please reach out to us. Peg Rowe, Beth Ruske, we're here on Facebook. You can find us here, or you can go to, I think it's information at tiaraleadership.com. Is it information at tiaraleadership.com?
Right. Info.
Yeah. Info. Okay. And thanks.
Yes.
And have a great weekend and enjoy your next week. And we'll see you next Friday with another topic.